to investment, like the previous government, they targeted gaming, pharmaceuticals. Which niches or sectors is this government targeting?
No, these happened. I mean, in the sense, you grab the opportunity when it comes. The importance that you notice the opportunity and you don't diddle, you just go for it. So I still remember, I mean, I was chairman of the MFSA in the '97. That was only 3 years after the new legislation came, when we went from offshore to onshore. You recall that we had to choose between applying to become members of the EU and giving up our offshore dream. And we did. And we went for the onshore legislation, massive legislation, very modern, rigorous institution and so on. We always said no to certain type of financial institutions, or sometimes originating from dubious areas, and it paid off. Then the question of the iGaming came by accident. There were 2 betting companies in the UK who quarreled with the UK government, etc., and they came and located in Malta. I believe 2 others went to Gibraltar. They liked what they saw. Others came, like the herd instinct, and they would say if they are there and they are very pleased with what they have, there's something happening in Malta, and they followed. And now we have, I believe, about 500 licenses or so. So that was the iGaming. The same for yachting, international yachting. You provide the infrastructure. Now it looks like we have a new phase of investment, which is looking at Malta to operate from. It's not just a hub. We used to go about the hub. It's almost the same. However, location-wise, the region has become very, very unstable. I mean, you can't get worse than wars and destruction of schools, hospitals, people being maimed. It's a big disaster, migration on a big scale. And Malta is there and providing a good base for families to live, companies to operate from. Universities can be set up for the region, hospitals as well, providing services, and a lot of investors, especially from the region, not necessarily from Malta, are seeing this potential. They've done their sums, and this is the kind of investment they're looking at in Malta.
How can you strike a balance, though, between making it easy to register companies in Malta and keeping rigorous checks? It's obviously, excuse me, there's the recent controversy about companies being registered and withdraw summons. So how do you strike that balance between making it easy for people?
We have to be careful here. The fact, as I said, that Malta is attractive for companies. A lot of companies were in Libya. International companies, Japanese companies, Chinese companies were in Libya, and their choice was to go back to China, to Japan, or to the UK, or wherever they came from. The other alternative was for them to locate in Malta until things improve. That can be for quite a long while, but a lot of them, the market is still there. People have got incomes, there's demand. There are a lot of normal people living in Libya still suffering, and there's a lot of potential. And they're locating in Malta. So the fact that, and new ones as well, not just the old ones, but also new ones, who don't necessarily operate for Libya, but it could be for Egypt, for the Middle East. I know what I'm talking about. Now, the fact that then you have some people who try on this system, commit fraud or mislead, it doesn't mean that the whole model is wrong. It's just that some people might have been fraudulent or whatever. So you need a due diligence and so on. But the fact that you have an alleged corrupt persons, we had corrupt judges, we had corrupt notaries, we had corrupt doctors, unfortunately. That happens. The point is that you have a system which brings them to the surface, and the law takes its place. But we just can't say, oh, these companies coming in Malta with loads of money. Wait a minute. If they are declaring them, they are not laundered. When you declare them, the bank needs to know where they came from which other bank came from, and so on. So not all companies which are establishing here are the type whereby, a big story about money coming in, millions and so on. At the same time, we must admit that a lot of people in Libya and their families who are well-to-do want to locate in Malta with one way or another, you know, because they fear for their lives and their children. Now, we haven't had a scheme for them. We have a residential scheme. They might use that. We have the passport scheme, but that's not necessarily, might not meet their needs. But they could have used the system. Well, we will review it and see whether the minimum is too small and so on. And we put, you know, also strengthening, because there are so many stories. I mean, you're talking about this one. There was also the incident in the financial service in the iGaming as well. We need to strengthen our economic crimes unit in the police, and we are helping in trying to get the expertise and training, because today's crime is very sophisticated. You need very good IT people, forensic people in the financial crime. So I can assure you that we're working to strengthen these units, especially our unit, which is placed in my ministry. The FIU is doing wonderful work. And however, it needs also other units to work with. You know, when it passes the investigation, it needs to somebody who is of that caliber, which can take up that alleged crime and investigate it. I think, I'm not going to shock anybody, we don't have that type of expertise, where we have forensic experts in financial who can go to a bank and see how the flows are going and so on and so forth. Like a sophisticated crime in the police, sometimes they get foreign experts. We might need foreign assistance as well here to help the people who are already here doing a better job.
So in a sense, have we bitten off more than we can chew? And I'm not saying this government, I'm saying the previous government as well. We've attracted all you know, these financial companies.
It goes for everything. I mean, can't you say that we were with 1 million and tourists, and we've gone to 1.5 million, now we have more pickpocketers? Yeah. So what do? We try to reduce the tourism? No, you try to weed out the criminals, you try to have more surveillance and so on. Of course, I tend to agree that there could be a capacity problem, you know, whether in tourism, wherever. But if you are, you know, I think the best response is to invest and build up your capacity, not to give up the you know, the workload, so to speak. So I mean, if you can't cope, then you strengthen, you invest. If you're making money, you should have enough to invest, strengthen your regulatory units, the intelligence units. I think here it's more a question of intelligence, and you know, whereby it's not a question of having a gun with a uniform and go near the catamaran and wait for the first mafioso to come. The way is to know who is coming, background, exchange information with the Italian police, and that's where we're thinking of building a special unit, whereby they share information with customs, with VAT, with income tax, excise, and also ETC. I can assure you that when you have a good unit and they will investigate, you know, things will you don't need Sherlock Holmes.
And now, speaking from a purely political point of view, how come the government hasn't commented on Joe Sandwood's case? Because obviously that's against the Labour Party, so haven't you felt the need to just deploy the effort or issue some sort of comment or reassurance that something's going to be done to...
But what do you expect the government to do? I mean, the fact that, and I can assure you that, you know, anything of that nature will have a response internally in the government. You know, my ministry, other ministries, the security and so on, will start looking at how things could have happened and so on and so forth. So the fact that happens, even though it's a police case and so on, but somebody who how would I say, tricks the system or whatever, it could be a notary. We've got 6 notaries who've been using other people's money and so on, and investigation is carried out. I didn't have any statement yet, because the police are still investigating. We have a container coming and with cigarettes and so on and so forth. I mean, that means, you know, things are happening. In other words, if they don't happen, you'd say because they are weak. If they happen, sometimes you are more alarmed. I'm not alarmed if they are caught. I'm disappointed if they are not caught. So we have installed an extra scanner at the Freeport. We're trying to get, what I am trying to get at, whether it's income tax, say the tax compliance unit, whether it's also the excise customs, is you need systems, software and so on, which will be foolproof. In other words, even corrupt officials would not be able to fool, because that's the problem. I'm sure other countries have this in place, and we are strengthening them and they're on the IT side. But still, Guardia di Finanza, every day they're on RAI, this were caught, criminals here, criminals there. Does it show that they are hopeless? We know that they are doing their work. So you have to balance. If you don't hear, sometimes there could be lack of surveillance. So I'm more pleased when they are caught. So in this case, justice will take its place. People will be questioned, connections, contacts, and so on. The same for the Freeport. We want to see how this disappeared and came back and so on. And people will be interviewed, but that's the course of justice. So I don't need, we need to be alarmed just because we hear the case. We should be alarmed if they don't surface, rather.
And with the citizenship scheme, there was a social development fund was set up. And we haven't heard much about it.
With the maternity leave?
No, the citizenship scheme. Some of the money is supposed to be going into a social development fund, I believe it's called.
Which scheme is that?
IIP.
The IIP.
Oh, the IIP.
Yeah,
okay.
There's supposed to be a social development
Yes,
fund.
well, we're discussing this today because I want to know how much money we're getting and whether we are target and so on. No, the arrangement was, it's initial stages. I mean, all the money is coming into consolidated fund, let's put it this way. However, the arrangement is that government would, well, the budget would keep only 1/3 of it, and 2/3 would go into the wealth fund. So at the moment it's all revenue, but in the future it will also be an expenditure because they will be handed over to the wealth fund, whereby they will be invested. But as again, I mean, we have to see the first year, whole year crop, and we'll be hearing about it. But I can assure you, they will be reported in the budget. The Treasury will report them as revenues, and we will also report how much money we've had so far, irrespective of how many people are in the queue, are being, passing through diligence tests and so on. What we can say is how many have actually got the passport and therefore have paid the full amount to the revenue.
So are you in a position to say how much is in the fund?
They will be reported.
And what is it going to be spent on? Is there a plan for that?
Whether we have a target.
No, what is the money going to be spent on from this wealth fund?
So far?
So far and in the future?
No, I mean, we will be reporting it. I mean, at the moment is that ID will then give us the report. We have estimates, but all the information have been given in the media of how many so far applied and so on.